Now, boom, and there it is. Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to episode number 102 of Mirrorless Minutes, and 102 is 4 years. 4 years. You know how I knew it was our anniversary episode? Because I got the bill for SoundCloud today.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I did it on our anniversaries when I set it up. So that's my anniversary present from them.
So, come on, Patreon members.
So here we are, like I said, episode 102, and this episode is going to be pretty much focused on talking about the workshops we've got coming up. It's kind of crazy, the diversity between the two workshops that we're doing. And to help us talk about these workshops, we've got the co-leaders of both of our workshops with us. We've got Megan Crandallmeyer and Mark Miller. Welcome aboard, you guys. How you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing well tonight. Glad to join.
Good to have you guys on. And and then another thing we'll mention right at closing, we're going to talk about the giveaway that we got coming up soon, and it's a doozy. So you're going to want to hang out all the way to the end to hear about the giveaway. It's a good one.
It's a big one. Yep.
So I guess we can start talking. Let's start talking about. I want to talk about your guys' workshop first, Mike. Seeing as how you guys have had the fortunate ability to be able to sell yours out within days.
Well, it helps when there's only 4. I gotta say that, right, Megan?
Yeah, that's true.
Made it 2 and sold it out in half his time, but so no, so Megan and I've been planning. I don't know, it's for a long time trying to do something like this. I've got the luxury of hanging out in Connecticut every once in a while for my job. So it's a good time to meet up and talk about how the heck we're going to make this happen. And we finally, I think, have a recipe. Would you say, Megan?
I think we do.
Yeah. And Jamie, we've had Megan on. And for those of you that don't know Megan, you definitely, we'll drop a line in there, but for 52 Magic Mondays and her project that she's put together that went a year, 52 Magic Mondays. I don't think everyone was a Monday though, was it?
Almost.
Weren't there a couple?
Almost, but I made the rules, so if I
that's right.
Needed to mix it up a little, I did.
Right. So her experience in New York and my experience in New York a few times, and most of my experience in New York, as funny as with Jamie.
Yeah.
We've been together, in New York, but so we wanted to put that together and use Olympus, use Insta360, get some giveaways. We'll have that. And Megan, I'm going to let Megan sort of talk about how the day is going to go for each day. And it doesn't have to be everything, and then, what areas, maybe the highlights, because the big thing, I think, when you're listening to Megan, if you're saying, I would have liked to have been on there, because we know that we do have people that want to, wish they could have come and are on the waiting list. We're actually going to do another one in the springtime. We just haven't put a date together. So I'm going to let you talk and go for it.
Okay.
All right.
Well, so one of the things that we decided to do was make it a little smaller, a little more intimate, which I love. And so we chose to do 4 people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be great because that's, 2 of us and 4 people, a lot of one-on-one. And I had to think through, since for my 52 Magic Mondays project, I went to all 5 boroughs and everywhere. So I thought, well, for this first workshop, what I want to show people. And I love the East Village in New York because it's mm-hmm. interesting. It's a little edgy. And so I thought that we would stay central. So we're going to use the Flatiron District, which is 23rd and 5th Avenue, kind of right central of Midtown, as our home base. And so the first day we're going to head down to Union Square, where they have a farmer's market mm-hmm. On the weekends. They actually have it pretty much every day, and explore that. And from there, head east into the East Village.
Which is great because, and that's one of the things too. I did a workshop with Valerie back 2-3 years ago, and it was all in the East Village. So you're right. I mean, that is going to be a really cool area to explore.
It's awesome. Mm-hmm. And the shops, the people, a lot of younger, free-spirited.
That's good. I like that. I would call it free-spirited.
Yeah.
Free-spirited
they're
New York.
They're being themselves, and it's a great culture.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the city a lot, you see how people live. That's what I love about the city in general, and what I got out of the project is people live all sorts of different ways, and no judgment on that. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong. Everybody's perfect just the way they are. So I love seeing something new and different. I remember when I explored the east of Central Park and a little north of Grand Central, and it felt like where I live in Connecticut. I'm like, this is boring. I see this every day. So back to the south. So we're going to explore the East Village for an hour, hour and a half or so, and then head a bit south down to Houston and near where they have the Tenement Museum, that area. The architecture down there is really interesting. It's a bit like the Soho area, but a touch different. And we're going to make our way into Chinatown, which I know is a favorite
Jamie,
of Mike's
and
Jamie. And Mike does a lot in San Fran with Chinatown.
A lot. And it's a different Chinatown, much bigger in San Francisco. I mean, in my mind, it seems a lot bigger. But Jamie finds the good food in Chinatown. That's where I was
going to ask you guys, so your workshop, I mean, you have to have like the biggest, coolest selection of lunch and meals of any workshop. Ours, we're in the middle of nowhere. I'm thinking, like, is this going to be like a survivalist menu? Like, we're going to have to forage. So I'm sure it's going to be great.
Yeah.
When I was in the city a few weeks ago scouting for this, I know I texted Mike a couple of times. I'm like, oh my gosh, the timing of this is going to be perfect for lunch. I don't even, you can eat Chinese, Italian, you can eat all of it. It's all this blend right in that area.
Right. And I know Jamie, when Jamie and I in our workshops, I think the first thing we sort of work backwards from, don't we? From the meals.
Yes.
Okay. So where do we go from here to here to there? And then when I know on Saturday night we'll do something with live composite. I'm certain of it. Right. Yes. And then when are we going to the Dumbo area? Is that Sunday?
Sunday morning, we're going to head out and go to the East River Ferry.
Yeah.
Which is,
that'll be cool.
You don't hear a lot about that, but it's $4.25. You can take it. It's from like 35th, so a little south of Grand Central and East. And it takes you over to Queens and makes a bunch of stops in Brooklyn. You go under the Williamsburg Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge. We'll get off in the Dumbo area. And then you're right at that Brooklyn Promenade where, those night shots, we won't be doing it at night, but that famous with the pillars in the water. But
the one Jamie and I, the one that we were with Olympus, this is such a crazy. We talked about it. Stayed out till when? Midnight, past midnight.
Yeah.
And we said we couldn't find it. I think we found out we were like 30 feet from it.
Yeah.
We just didn't walk the extra 30 feet.
Yeah. And talk about,
and there's like 9 of us. 9.
Yes. It was ridiculous.
All the Olympus people. Like, what idiots.
I felt like a Dumbo. So the area, it made sense for where we were at.
Yeah. So we're in New York City, obviously, and we're not going to be able to capture any waterfalls. But if you want to capture a waterfall, just a week before, then you can still get one spot left. Is Jamie and Mark.
Well, hold on.
Probably go that way.
Let's not jump into that yet, because I know you guys have some photos just to give people maybe a little bit of an idea of, some things that they might be able to expect in the city.
That's cool. Yeah. I'll let Megan, are you good to share them then?
Yeah, I can share. Let's see.
Okay. And this is from Megan's recent scouting trip, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, you really are seeing at least the area. Who knows what we're going to see on the day? There's me.
Yeah, there you are. And let's see. Where is my preview here?
You gotta. What do you have? She has to hit that top thing, the screen. What is it called? Oh, there we go. Cool.
Can you see it?
Yeah. I'm just gonna hang there all day. But go ahead.
So So this was me heading down. I think it was Avenue A. So there's this little bump out on Manhattan where the avenues that go 1 through 12 or whatever, and then there's this area south in the East Village that there's ABC. So I think I'm down Avenue A, and I love a good reflection. And I came upon this, and I had my camera up against the window, waiting for someone interesting to come by. And I liked how this guy was dressed, and just waited for the moment as he was looking. Now I hadn't gone past this yet, And so I got this shot. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then all of a sudden, he disappeared because he was headed into a door. I didn't even know a door was there. And I just happened to just catch it as the door was closing. And so I love moments like that are just very spontaneous. And then this was an area I'd never been to before. I don't remember the name of it, but it was south of Houston, heading towards where I was going to turn into Chinatown. And I loved this. The world needs originals and extra butter. I mean, who can argue with that logic? Right. So, yeah, there's a great mural and a woman standing there. So
yeah,
kind of a fun.
I like
fun
that.
Shot. Yeah, and this was a whole new area. I love that. I did 52 weeks in New York, and I'm still finding new things. And then for the workshop, we will be heading into Washington Square Park, and I love the fountain. I call this image "Little Feet" because I felt like there was just so much. Everybody's feet were doing something different. We have the girl with the boot and the sock and the barefoot, and then the woman with the tights on and the shoes sitting there. So I thought that was
cool
shot. And then I love noticing the little things too. And I saw this, and, you know, someone wrote on this, I got the key, and I love the bright yellow and being, you know, close to the key and the kind of the architecture behind. So, so when we meet with our group, I'm going to talk about things like this, you know, big picture of people, architecture, and then also to remember the little things that are interesting.
I love that I got the key, just because it's funny that you mentioned the little things like that are just kind of tucked away in the bigger picture. And it's one of those things that like a nature or wildlife photographer always kind of gravitates towards. And it's kind of cool to see that you do the same thing in a completely different setting, in an urban setting, you know, with not plants and bugs, but like, you know, architecture and man-made objects. That's very cool. Cool.
That is, I agree. I love that. Plus, I mean, you got really focused, the open, the close. I mean, it's just, there's a lot there going on there.
Yep.
The little thing.
Thank you. Yeah. Really fun. So that's what we'll be capturing on our workshop.
All right.
I do have a request. I would like Mike to bring me back some cannoli. Seems how you'll
I was in Cannoli Alley. Not a problem, dude.
Oh, man.
I'm sure we could do that. That's right. You did buy those. That's when I found my shirt I wanted.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I tried to find cannoli here, and it's garbage. It's like gas station sushi, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not something you should do.
That reminds me when I lived in Minneapolis, St. Paul for 10 years, and I couldn't find good pizza. We tried 10 years.
I'll agree with you on Minneapolis, just being there 2 years.
So before we switch subjects to like the countryside, for anybody watching, or for those of you that are listening to this, you know, you guys mentioned that you're already talking about a spring workshop.
Definitely.
And I really encourage people who are listening to this and not watching, that didn't see the images, to make sure you make your way over to the Facebook page for Mirrorless Minutes. I'll try to remember to put that in the link here to the YouTube video, and hopefully it shows up in the podcast show description, because we do a gallery for every episode now. Right. And I think it would be really great for people who've never been to New York City. They heard you guys talk about the experience of being there, but to be able to put some images together with it, I think it kind of really helps solidify what you guys are doing. And for someone who's never been there, New York City's overwhelming. I'm not really a country boy. I like my little farm town, you know, but I would feel so much more comfortable visiting a big city with like you guys than I would just going on my own. So this is just a big, obvious plug that people should really look at your guys' workshops if they're interested in going to Chicago to shoot.
Yeah. And it's, you know, and it's, I think the same thing goes, even for myself, who here am in the city, or at least close enough to the city to get there in 15 minutes. I feel more comfortable knowing Megan's there because
you're kind of removing the confidence I'm trying to instill in everybody.
And I agree. Okay? But you know,
I got you, Mike.
We are pretty transparent in this show.
Yeah.
And I will say, when Jamie and I do a lot of our workshops, we base them very much so. Like, we'll do a city, country type or nature type combination workshop. It's just like Atlanta. And I always feel a lot more comfortable knowing that when we get to the waterfalls and stuff that Jamie's around.
And it's the exact opposite when we're in the city. I'm like, thank God Mike knows what he's doing here, because not my wheelhouse.
Yeah. So I think it works well. That it'll work well for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. So I guess the next one we'll talk about here. This is a quick episode, really easy one. So Mark and I are doing a workshop in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. So it's funny to think that we're doing a workshop in the state in which we live, but for those of you who live in the state who've never crossed the bridge to the Upper Peninsula, let me tell you, you don't feel like you're in Michigan anymore. It feels like a completely different landscape. And I'll let Mark kind of talk for a few minutes about, like his experiences in the UP, like what his first trip up there was like, what his impressions were of, the landscape, how it differs from down here. And then I'll just kind of feed off of whatever you're saying and kind of jump in and run my mouth.
Sure. Yeah, my first trip to the UP, I think it was 2, maybe 3 years ago. And I honestly had never been there in my life. Never really knew much about it other than it was way up north and had little interest in going up there. And then one day I saw some pictures of Pictured Rocks National Lake Shore online. And I was like, man, where the heck is that place? That looks awesome. And then started looking into it. I'm like, oh shit, I live in Michigan, a few hours away from there. So I talked to my wife and going up there, and we did a real quick weekend. We went up on a Friday morning, and we stopped in Mackinac Island there, spent the day, spent the night in St. Ignace, and then drove up the following morning up to Munising. And the biggest surprise to me was the drive going through the UP, all backwoods, very little civilization. You'd come across a gas station or a random diner every so often, and started thinking, man, I'm not even sure if we're going to get anywhere with the amount of gas we got, because you never know when something's going to come up and your cell service starts dropping down.
Right.
But I mean, it's beautiful. It's just tons of trees and very natural. So we finally get up to Munising, and it's a little town, maybe 4 or 5 restaurants in there. And just right off on the lake shore of Lake Superior, beautiful area. There's a little beach down at the end of the strip that I went down to and took some sunset shots and whatnot. But we signed up and went on one of the Pictured Rocks cruises and went out there. It's awesome. We did like the hour before sunset and wanted to make sure I had good light, and I like the blue sky and the clouds and whatnot. Lucked out. It was perfect considering I was there for a day. A lot of shots of that, and then we drove around the following day and looked for the waterfalls. And
there's a lot of those up there.
There's a lot.
Did you find any?
Yeah. It's funny. So I'm going to just jump in here. So Tim Hanko in the chat.
Are you going to say that?
I have to, because
I love it.
This is very, it's very appropriate to the terrain there. So Michigan's a really well-populated state. In the Lower Peninsula, we've got areas that are, pretty rural, but for the most part, I mean, you can about throw a rock and hit like something that man made. Up in the UP, Tim said that he once was driving through the UP and pushed the search button on his radio, and it went all the way through the dial without ever hitting a station. So that's the Upper Peninsula. The Upper Peninsula
gives you an idea.
Yes, it is. It feels rugged and remote and just stunningly beautiful up there. It feels really untouched. The towns that are up there, aside from Marquette, which we won't be visiting, all the other towns, like Mark mentioned, Munising and any place else up there, is really small, maybe like 10, 15,000 people at the most in one of those towns, at the very most. So very, very remote, tons of waterfalls. And there are a lot of waterfalls that we're going to visit, some that are super, I call them low hanging fruit. They're just really easy to get to. We're not going to lose anybody on our workshop. There's nobody getting helicoptered out on this workshop. So some really easy ones, but I've also got some sitting on the back burner. And for day 2, I'll just kind of get with Mark and we'll gauge everybody's morale and how they feel physically, and maybe just pop the question out there that we've got a couple other waterfalls in our back pocket that we could visit that will require a little more effort to get to. It's crazy. I was up there a couple of weeks ago with family, with my wife and kids, scouting, locations for this just to make sure I know how to get to places. So for those in the chat room, Bob Panic, there will be no U-turns on this workshop. We know where we're going. But my wife did some research and found a waterfall that we went to that was, I swear, maybe it's just in my head, but I thought I heard banjos, like dueling banjos in the background playing. It was in the middle of nowhere, and we spent about an hour there. Never heard a car, never a person. Hell, I don't think even a jet flew over the whole time we were there. I felt like I was transported back like 200 years. Yeah. So that just kind of gives people an idea of the environment up there. We're going to be up there in a perfect time of year. Fall colors tend to start earlier up there. It's not likely we'll be close to peak colors up there by any means, but while we were up there 2 weeks ago, some trees were slowly starting to do a change. So we should have color, which will be just an added benefit to the waterfalls. And Mark, do you remember how to do a screenshot? I'll have Mark share some photos that are just kind of indicative of some of the techniques that we'll go over and show you guys while we're up there. Because Mark and I are both brand ambassadors for NiSi, we'll be talking a lot about filters and using filters to kind of achieve, certain looks when you're photographing water and landscapes. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got basically just a handful of different waterfall shots here. This one is from up in Munising on the trip that I was up there. It's Munising Falls. It's a little bit of a walk to get back there. It's not too bad. Real beautiful back there. There's some nice decks and stuff that you can get on to take some shots and get some different views of it. I liked this particular shot just because it's kind of framed by the trees and whatnot around it. Very peaceful. You've got a lot of texture in the stones behind it. So it's just one of the spots. I'm not sure if we're visiting. I don't think we're hitting this one. It's one of the more frequent ones, but it's kind of what you'll see up there. This next shot is a little small waterfall, actually not too far from my house. And what I was doing here was just trying, I like the greens. I like to oversaturate my pictures as well. So I was picking up the moss in the rocks there, really focusing on that and trying to get as much texture in those, and then just have the water kind of flow and blur behind it. Obviously using my NiSi filters on all these. It only takes, a second, maybe two to get some good blur. And that's all preference, and we'll go over that in the workshop, what you can do, how long you're going to run them. The next one here is in Jackson, and it's not really a waterfall, just kind of a dam there. But Jamie and I we met up last year before our workshop, and we were out shooting, just talking and over what we're going to do. And he showed me this place here. And what I really liked was the fall colors in the background there, the clouds in the sky were there a little before sunset. And then you got the killer reflection in the water up there where it's on top of the dam, nice and calm. And then you can get all the motion of the water flowing beneath it. The last one I've got here is another fall picture, just a little bit of flowing water. The whole goal when I went out was just trying to get some fall pictures of the leaves and whatnot, and drove by this place and went down there, and I did stage the shot, put the little orange leaf down there on the rock. Just that's where I wanted the attention. And then everything is focused there. The waterfall and everything off in the back is slightly out of focus, but it just adds to the image in my mind. So these are some of the types of things we'll be working on during the workshop. It's gonna be a lot of water. We do have a few other ideas in mind while we're up there, so it should be a fun time.
Yeah, I really, that Jackson one is nice. I'm gonna have to find out where that's at. I mean, it's it's quicker to get to Jackson for me than it would be to the UP.
Yeah, significantly.
Yeah.
I'll share a couple of photos also, just from my trip to the UP, so people can can see a few of the spots that that we will visit, and then one that's a potential that I talked about that I have in my back pocket, and I'll tell the little story about that one. So let me get the screen share rocking and rolling here. Actually, hold on, let me do that first. Now let me do that. All right, so the first one, this is one of the places that's on the stop, and this is what I seriously call low-hanging fruit. This is Scott Falls, and it is pretty much a roadside waterfall for the most part. And I'm not going to give away too much information about this waterfall in particular. There's something to this waterfall that I'll show everybody when we get there, and I'll show people how to work with what this waterfall represents. I'm so flaky and elusive on trying to explain this, but you'll see when we get there, and when I start talking, you'll be like, oh, okay, now I know exactly what he was talking about. If you happen to be listening or watching to this show. But so again, Scott Falls, super easy to get to. Everybody's going to get a great shot here. This was just a really short exposure. Like Mark said, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a 5, 10, 15 second long exposure. This one was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a handheld shot at like 1.5 seconds. So really easy to do. The next one is, and this is something that Bob Panic had mentioned in the chat room, that if you don't have ND filters, but you do have an Olympus camera that has high res mode, you can sort of get a very similar effect to throwing an ND filter on your camera. Right. Not quite the same, because if you have objects on the surface of the water, as it's kind of glassing out, they tend to look like they're skipping or stuttering, whereas with an ND filter, they just tend to have a smoother look to them. But most people would never notice it. But this is actually an 80 megapixel high res mode shot that I did. And it's funny because like on the screen share, it looks like it's super small. But this is again what I call, like, you know, one of those back pocket locations, Schweitzer Falls. And you know, if you're going on our workshop and you're listening to this or watching it or whatever, and you're just dying to make this happen, just make sure to speak up on the end of day 1 or the beginning of day 2 and just mention it, or we'll be asking anyways. Another one of the stops that we're going to make on day 2, provided we don't do all these like backup plan options of other waterfalls. This is Fayette State Park on the southern side of the Upper Peninsula. So day 2 is going to have a little bit of a jog in it to see a couple of different things, but I wanted to put something in there that was a little bit different, not just 100% all waterfalls, because variety is the spice of life. And I figured we'd throw something unique in there, because this place not only has scenes like this is big. It's a big harbor where ships used to come in and pick up iron ore, but there's actually a bunch of old buildings from the mining town that was there that were just left intact, and now they're preserved. And it's a really cool spot to shoot, along with this one, which is Kitchitikipi Springs. And I'll just flip through to the next photo of that so you can get like an aerial view of it. For those not familiar with Kitchitikipi Springs, it's a freshwater spring that bubbles up from the ground. The water stays a constant 42 degrees all year long. These aren't color enhanced images. I swear these are straight off the camera. This is just how it looks there. The water is, if I'm not mistaken, 35 feet deep, roughly 37 feet. And you can see to the bottom of it like it's 4 feet deep. The water is that pristine and crystal clear. That's another one of our stops. And because we're doing this workshop, what I'm going to say is, like, after tourist season, there is in the kind of the right-hand side of the lake here, the pond here, this little thing that looks like a building here, this darker brown part, that's a boat that is attached to that rope that's going across the water that you can see in this shot. We can get on that boat, we control it, we pull ourselves out, and we're able to get our own shots. And again, because it's going to be after tourist season, there's very high likelihood that this will just kind of be our boat for as long as we want to play with it and use it. So it's a very pristine body of water. They actually really frown upon people putting anything in the water. So I'm just going to mention that out there, that if you're going to bring a tough camera, don't get the thought, you know, that you're going to dangle it down inside the water and shoot. I just hate for one of my group to drop a camera down there and muddy up the waters, as it were. And then the last shot, I talked to one of the workshop attendees actually last night. I was out at 2 in the morning on the west side of the state shooting thunderstorms, and one of the attendees made the drive over to shoot thunderstorms as well, Brian Bright. and we got to talking, and we were just talking about how dark the sky is up there. And I told him, if we have a clear night up there, I definitely want to take the group out for some sort of astrophotography, whether it be, long exposure star trails. The potential for aurora would be kind of cool. You never know. We'll be far enough up in the UP to where even minor magnetic storming presents aurora. So that's always a potential as well. And then the Milky Way at the time of year that we're up there presents itself very low on the horizon for a very short period of time, but the potential again is there if we have a clear night to get Milky Way shots like this. This is straight out of camera. This is what the Milky Way looks like coming off of your camera when you're up there. It's so dark. So again, just kind of some of the things that you could expect to do on this workshop. Like we said, Mark and I will be working with you on long exposure, composition, for people who need it. Just getting to know your camera in general and how to get the most out of it. And then hopefully some extras, you never know, Milky Way, potentially aurora, or some sort of astrophotography as well.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And then, just to remind everybody, same thing with Megan's eye or any workshop ever done with Jamie and I or Mirrorless Adventures. We don't mind what kind of camera you bring.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about Olympus. It's about you exploring photography. So believe me, we've shot with people with the largest DSLRs. We've shot with people that shoot film, iPhone.
And it's as much of it's as much a social experience as it is a photography experience. And I'll throw this out there that Mark and I are doing this, and I know you said that you and Megan are doing the same thing as well.
Yep.
I know we're planning on about 2 weeks after the event is done, after people have had time to come home and decompress and kind of go through their images. We're going to do a Google Hangouts, which is basically like what you see here, where everybody will get a chance to do an image share, share maybe their top 3 or 4 images that they liked. And then Mark and I will do the same thing. And the workshop that Mark and I did last year, it was kind of a really popular thing that we did where we just shared our techniques for editing the images. And that was just fun to be able to share like our approach to things and then hear how other people were working on their images as well. So I think the hangout afterwards is a really fun part of this as well. It kind of keeps the momentum of the experience going, several weeks out after the event.
Yeah, it's exactly. And I know Megan and I are doing the one after, and when's our first, we're actually having one pre-workshop, the 20th of September or something.
Yep. Yeah. So the Thursday before.
We're doing that just to get everybody, I guess, stoked up and ready to go.
I like that idea. That's a good idea. I like that.
To get them all fired up, and make sure everybody, we've been having everybody do 3-4 mile runs. We're going to check everybody's time. So because we know when Megan gets in the city, she starts to run and you can't keep up with her.
That's actually true.
So that is sort of a joke, but
you're going too fast. We can't keep up. But so I'm looking forward. We're basically doing like a meet and greet beforehand, and we can talk about equipment, and we'll be able to look a little bit ahead to the weather and help everyone plan accordingly. So
super cool. I love the idea of the meet and greet beforehand. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, like that. This way we can hit the ground really running on Saturday morning and say let's go. Let's
no rest
shooting.
For the wicked.
You're right.
Very cool. Yeah,
and then we'll just all chase Megan probably the rest of the weekend. So
it's Mike bringing up the rear.
I've been upping my cardio the last month. So
good.
So I think your guys' workshop looks like a lot of fun. I wish I could go. I love New York City, so
we're coming.
That would be super awesome.
Cool.
Spring.
Yeah, spring. Maybe I'll have to make that one happen.
There you go.
So I guess that kind of wraps up this show. For those of you who have never heard this before or listened to any of these before, I'm just going to throw it out there. You need to go to meetup.com/mirrorless adventures and sign up over there so that you can be made aware of where these workshops are going on. Obviously, they don't all take place in Michigan. Mike and I've done them in Atlanta, doing them in New York City, Philadelphia. And then Mike and I are actually going to be meeting not too long from now, probably when we get around to October.
Start
putting things together for another workshop.
Our mystery location.
Yeah, we might just leave it up to you guys like we did with Atlanta. So
right.
You never know where we're going to land. So yeah, just swing over to meetup.com/mirrorless adventures. And again, we've got this huge contest going. Like, it's not a contest. It's just we're just giving stuff away. What are we giving away? We're giving away an OMD EM10 Mark III.
Yeah, which is amazing. With the kit, the lens.
Yes,
bag.
the little bag. I mean, dude, super cool. We're giving away the panel clips. So you want to make those crazy cool 360 photos and stuff that Mike's doing
right on your phone. Don't need any power or anything. Yep.
Yeah,
no batteries.
Yep, super cool. We're giving away a camera, panel clips, so you can totally change the perspective on your photography. We've got a tripod and a camera bag that we're giving away as well. How do you win? Well, like, how does this happen? Well, there's a couple of ways you can do it. And I know I talk a million miles an hour, so you might have to play this like 3 times to get it all. Just give us a shout out on Instagram or Twitter and use the hashtag 100 mirrorless minutes. Okay. Because we were celebrating our 100th episode a couple episodes ago.
2 episodes ago.
And then math. It's good. It comes in handy. So hashtag 100 mirrorless minutes. That's one way. If you swing over to iTunes and give us a review, you'll get 5 entries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entries to win that way. Sign up on Mirrorless Adventures. If you're signed up on Mirrorless Adventures, you've automatically got an entry there. So you don't even have to do anything. You can just be lazy and just hopefully win. If you become a Patreon subscriber and just pitch in like $1 a month, like that's not even a bottle of water a month.
Sometimes,
that's 5 free entries. I mean, $1 a month, $12 a year could potentially get you like an entire camera kit. So totally cool to be giving this stuff away. But you know what? We wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for everybody that's watching and listening either. So huge thanks to you guys for making all of this possible. All this dream and they're living in a
fancy. Yeah, exactly. The messed up studio. But so Mirrorless Adventures, and just real quick, nothing's on there yet, but definitely join up, especially if you are local to the Detroit area, because on October 13th, I'm going to do an Eastern Market hangout on an early Saturday morning to do some street shooting, and it's going to be completely free. So it's one of those ones where I'll double your money back if you're not happy.
Sweet.
So
2 frees.
Yep.
2
frees for the price of none. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. So
and thus we've slipped into Wayne's World again.
It happens. Now we did it in front of 2 people that are guests on our show. So again, hey, if you're I was just gonna say to follow Mark and Megan on their social channels, and I'm like, I don't have their information in front of me, so I can't say it. So that means you're gonna have to actually read the show description and make sure you follow those guys as well. And until the next episode, you guys take care. Thanks for coming on, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See you